Welcome to the Road to Redemption podcast with your host, Cam Williamson. Each week, Cam sets out to shatter the labels and stigmas associated with mental health awareness by giving life lessons and raw overviews of events happening around the world.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. I am, as always, your grateful host, Cam Williamson. We've moved again. Different location, but that's not what's important. What's important, we're going to talk about relationships, relationship dynamics. If you guys are following any of this stuff going on with Jonah Hill and his ex-girlfriend Sarah Brady, it's gotten a lot of people's attention, and we're going to talk about it. First things first, I do want to say Jonah Hill is being accused, I guess, of being controlling, of being using things that are called therapy speak, where he's trying to essentially use mental health and its terminologies like boundaries and things like that as a way to be manipulative. We're going to get into it, and we will do that effective now. So here's what I want to start with. Jonah Hill just released a Netflix documentary somewhere around 3 to 6 months ago called Stutz, where it was him and his therapist, and they talked about their lives, their relationship, how they help each other, those kind of things. I instantly was kind of conflicted with that because therapy is supposed to be a private thing. It's supposed to be an intimate thing for your healing. It's not supposed to be a public thing as a look at me, I go to therapy. Now, again, that's not how Jonah Hill produced that. I saw the documentary. It wasn't great. His therapist is cool or whatever, but like, again, I felt it more as a direct violation as a patient in general. That's kind of a boundary that you're crossing by making these things public. Again, you wouldn't want that opposite ways. He's putting his therapist on highlighted blast. You would never expect that in return, right? So instantly, I knew he was putting himself in a very vulnerable place with his mental health and his relationship with his therapist and those things. I kind of was waiting on some backlash to come from that. Jonah Hill has come out with some projects as of recent, like mid-90s, which was a great skate movie. I thought he did a great job. He's obviously a part of the Seth Rogen crew, where Knocked Up, Superbad, all those kind of things. So we know Jonah Hill is kind of a broad spectrum dude, right? He could be completely degenerately funny, and he's also really trying to work through a lot of the traumas and stuff that he's had go on in his life. So then in comes Sarah Brady, who is a semi-professional surfer, and they had a relationship. They were dating each other, and push came to shove. Whatever happened, he started having issues with her career or choices she was making in her career. As someone in Hollywood, we saw this a lot with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. He had a lot of ideas as to what is good or not good for her career, pictures to take, people to be seen with. Again, does that make it right? No, but he has insight, and he felt like sharing it in his relationship. So Jonah Hill was asking her, hey, if you need to, or this is how it was essentially laid out, if you need to have things in your life like friendships where you're going out with other men as friends and going out to eat and stuff like that, that's not going to work for me. Posting scandalous pictures of you in a bikini on your social media, that doesn't work for me. Posting half-naked pictures, and he kind of broke it down in two different things, like surfing pictures and certain types, and then specifically you're posting just you in a bathing suit. So he was saying when you're surfing, what you wear while you're doing that, and then also social media just in general, how you're presenting yourself out there. And then he said, because of some of your recent past stuff and things you've gotten yourself into, even having more than an appropriate lunch or coffee with a female friend doesn't work for me. So she must have been playing in some bisexual stuff or whatever, I'm assuming, for him to need that boundary, right? And that's what he called them, boundaries. These are boundaries that I need to feel secure right now in our relationship. Let's start right there. Is that an okay thing to say? Is that therapy speak to say this is a boundary I'm setting? No. Therapy is a resource. It's a tool. It's what people use to cope with life. That's what it's there for. So to then accuse Jonah Hill of using therapy speak against this woman is not only immature, but it's fucking wrong. Because he's using the tools he's gained to deal with this situation as maturely as he can. Does that mean he's making the right decision? No. That's for him to decide for his life. Whether you think that's an acceptable way to live your life or allow someone to make that boundary for themselves against you, well, that's not really what we're talking about here. That would be your choice. And here's the other thing. She then goes through and says, okay, I've removed the ones you've asked. Is there any more that bother you? So she's kind of becoming accommodating to this, which means they had a conversation. He shared his vulnerabilities with her, why this bothers me, why I have sensitivity around this. And again, this is a very important thing when we're talking about relationships. This bothers me does not mean you've done something wrong. Can we agree on that? This bothers me. This hurts me when this happens. Does not have to mean you did that intentionally to hurt me. That is where the biggest disconnect comes so often in relationships. You did this thing. Because of that, I felt this way. We don't finish it with, that's not your fault. So it sounds like through the therapy that Jonah got, he was able to dissect that with his therapist and present it in the most mature and appropriate way possible to go, right now, as we stand, these are the changes I would need to see made to feel confident and secure in this relationship. If you can't do that, I'm not the partner for you. That's where a lot of people took, complaints with is, if you can't do that, I'm not the partner for you. As if it's an ultimatum. It is, but again, people have the right to protect themselves. They have a right to feel the way they feel. Everyone has the right to live their lives the way they see fit. If Jonah Hill makes this list of boundaries, she then complies with them, and they still don't work out, well then guess what? That wasn't the problem, was it? Sounds like he put these things out, she complied with it, they still didn't work out. Why? Because she wasn't being authentic to herself. He was doing his best to be as authentic as he could with himself. And there was a dynamic shift there. Towards, she's been sharing screenshots of all their stuff for the last couple days. And I've kind of held back and waited to see because I don't want to speak without knowing what's going on. Or at least knowing what I can possibly know. And here's the thing. She's nobody. Nobody knows who Sarah Brady is. He's Jonah Hill. So for her to share these things on her social media, she shared it to her Instagram story. She's trying to put Jonah Hill on blast to put herself in the limelight and hopefully, gain social media followers off this? Nothing that Jonah Hill said or did was wrong. He actually went out of his way to make sure. Now again, am I saying he's wrong for requesting her to change the way she dresses or whatever? I'm not saying he's right or wrong. Is it okay for if you're in a relationship with someone to control the way they dress? No. That person can dress however they want. Now, if they're dressing more scandalously than you would feel comfortable with because of your own insecurities, your past, your traumas, whatever, that does not make either one of you right or wrong. You might just not be for each other. What one needs to express themselves triggers the other one. Well, you two might not be compatible there. That's okay. And I think that's all you saw. You saw two people that were friends. Jonah kept saying that throughout the things. We've been dear friends. We've cared about each other. We've supported each other. And now you want to do this because of my namesake. And because you got hurt that I started dating someone else after I made myself clear to you, this is what it would take for us to continue a relationship. That was obviously enough of an issue for you that you thought it was, one, worth ending our relationship, and two, putting it on social media. And making me out to be a controlling, manipulative dickhead when that's not what he was being. In what light are people allowed to just be transparent and honest without it being manipulative or controlling just because it doesn't work out for you? It's the same thing we talked about in the recent episode with narcissism. Not everyone that speaks up for themselves is a fucking narcissist. Not everyone that has a line in the sand and goes, if you do these things, I do not want you a part of my life. Whether I love you, care about you, would, be miserable without you for the rest of my life. If you're choosing to do these things, that doesn't work for me. Why? What we offer each other is not worth the pain and suffering that all the other shit you're doing is going to cause me. The daily having to worry about this and that. And again, am I justified in these things? On a societal level, probably not. Should I trust you? Yes. Should I whatever? Yes. Should I? Yes. We don't know the intricate details of these people's lives. See how I had to assume she was into some bisexual relationships because he had to put a boundary that she couldn't have more than an appropriate lunch or coffee with a woman, which again, to say that, it's just like comedy. If you read something in a text, this is a list of things that I'm saying I want you to change so we can be together. That looks bad. That looks controlling. That looks whatever. If you've ever been in a relationship, a real one, and you've ever had complications, and you've ever had trials, and you've ever had hard times, there will indefinitely come a time when you put your foot down and go, this is my stance on this subject. Especially, let's just talk about this one, when it comes to dealing with the opposite or same sex, if that person is interested in the same sex. Okay? Especially if they are interested in both. That's the trifecta of fuckery. Because now, it's not just one gender that I have to be insecure about. It's both of them. So now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you you can't have any friends because you're attracted possibly to both genders. But if you're doing things by your actions, not by my insecurities telling me you're doing these things, but if by your actions you have done things that cause concern, whether you may not stay loyal to our monogamous relationship, well, then I have every right to say, due to your actions and the way you've behaved, these are things that I would need to feel comfortable and safe and protected emotionally, physically, and whatever in our relationship. Because again, we don't know these people's lives. I'm not saying Sarah Brady's a bad person. I'm not saying she's a whore. I'm not saying any of these things. I'm saying that if she wants to express herself in different ways in life, and Jonah said this too, if you need to do that, I have nothing but love and support for you. I'm just not the partner for you. And I think, honestly, the media is more mad that, and I'm not putting Jonah Hill up as some kind of fucking icon or mental health advocate, extraordinaire or whatever. Again, I think Stutz was a little inappropriate, but I think what the media is more pissed about and why it keeps getting run the way it's being run is because you actually see a man handling this maturely. I think everyone is more pissed off that this text message thread doesn't read you're a selfish bitch. Why would you do this to me? You couldn't keep it in your pants. And, he didn't say any of that shit. The most scandalous thing in that text thread was him saying, you not showing your ass in a bikini, and she goes, not, or in a thong, and she goes, not a thong, but K. And again, I get what that means. Not a thong, but K means it probably wasn't technically a thong bottom. It probably showed a good portion of her ass, so she's playing the technicality card and then ending it with the K as a go fuck yourself. We all know what the K means, right? So if someone is being manipulated, I would say it was Jonah Hill. And again, there was even indications where she said, I accommodated what you were asking so you could feel more secure in our relationship, and that cost me financially. And he's like, yeah, I made up for that. I covered that because I'm Jonah Hill. And you're a halftime surfer, halftime whatever you're trying to do off this story. I think it's really sick the way people are trying to drag Jonah Hill through the mud for handling a situation as maturely as one can handle. He's not claiming to be perfect here. He's not claiming that he's asking her to take all these pictures down and not have inappropriate relationships with men and don't have more than an appropriate relationship with a woman if that's your thing. I don't think these are things that are uncommon. A lot of them are usually unspoken. You don't usually have to say things like this in a relationship, where if you're in a trusted monogamous relationship, now how people dress and how they present themselves on social media, that's between every individual fucking person. Because that's a complicated thing in relationships. When you're attracted to somebody, you're attracted to them. So you see them as attractive. So you understand why other people see them as attractive. And if they're trying to flaunt their attractiveness or sexuality out in public, if you're vulnerable or insensitive, I could see how you could be like, hey, that's mine, and you're trying to show it to others. Well, that's a very short-sighted and, yes, controlling way to do things. It's not a very trusting way to act. But again, people have wounds. People have the right to live in ways that they see as acceptable. If you want to call it old school, you can do that. If you want to call it modest, you could do that. I guess if you want to call it controlling and manipulative, you can. I think there's a gray line and all that type of stuff. And obviously it's a double standard, because women are not telling guys, hey, pull your shorts or your skirt down, right? It's not, hey brother, your boobs are hanging out of your shirt. You know what I'm saying? Or, hey brother, I can see your ass cheeks in them. We're not having these conversations, right? Well, not in my sectors. But opposite, that is it. Now again, I'm of the belief that, if you're living your life with your person, then you're living your life with your person. If they are doing these things and you are not actively living a life together and you spend more time apart and they're out, putting on these presentations for other things, I would just ask, maybe are you doing what's necessary to keep your relationship as connected as possible? And, outside of that, disconnect can always open the door to entertainment in other places, I guess. But that's for each individual person. And someone wearing a bikini on the beach doesn't mean that they're disloyal or that they're going to be. Someone having coffee with one sex or the other, whether they're straight, gay, bisexual, whatever, doesn't mean that they're going to be disloyal or not. But it also doesn't mean that they won't be. And it doesn't mean that they haven't been. And it doesn't mean that Jonah Hill could have wounds that are completely unrelated to her, but now that they are in a relationship, he feels safe enough to express those, and that he felt she would protect him in that way. And, I'm sure there's a lot of people on the internet that want to go, Jonah Hill's being a real fucking bitch. He's being a real whatever. And that's easy to do too, especially as you got towards the later parts of the text when he's going, you screenshotted vulnerable texts between us. Like, that hurt. I told you that people had done that to me before, and people have tried to use that against me before. And I just want you to know, like, that hurt. I really loved you. I really cared about you, and, whatever. And that was just unnecessary. And, she goes, well, I just shared that. I just took that picture to show it to you. Well, you put it all over your social media page. And, I understand that it seemed like there was a story ran about him and his new girlfriend that included Sarah Brady's name. So she thought it was a little personal. So maybe she wanted to clap back publicly and that was the only way she could do it. I really don't know. But, I think it was an undertone shot where she was trying to maybe hold on to whatever was left of the Me Too movement and see if maybe she could spark a little fire and get Jonah's ass up out of Hollywood. I think it was a bad look. I think it was a real bad look. I think she was really leaning hard on women to come to her defense and be like, she should be able to wear a bikini on the beach. She should be able to have lunch with whoever she wants. And you wouldn't be wrong in saying those things. But I think it's time for the men's side to stand up and go, he's allowed to make his wants and needs known. He is allowed, and so is she, to have boundaries. Here's the thing about boundaries. They work both ways. My boundary is, in Jonah Hill's situation, you post pictures of your ass on the internet, that don't work for me. We're not going to be in a romantic, committed relationship. Doesn't mean I can't love you. Doesn't mean I can't care about you. Doesn't mean I can't be friends with you. I am not linking myself to you when you're doing these things. She can then go bet I'm choosing to put this on social media in whatever way I want. My boundary is I don't let people control me that way. And where are we at? Right back to where we started. Two people that shouldn't be together. You're not compatible for each other, and that's right now. Maybe in 10 years, she'll change. Maybe in 10 years, he'll change. Maybe you guys will work it out. But right now, I see that as absolutely not a good idea, especially when you actively tried to ruin this man's life. And for what? Because you, to me, and again, I'm a guy, so maybe I have a little bias here, it seems like she didn't get the juice that she expected out of the squeeze in dating Jonah. And because she either pissed him off, did things against his boundaries, however you want to put it, didn't meet his expectations in the life partner, they broke up. I don't know who broke up with who, but they broke up, and she was quite upset about it. And he kept saying, I'm sorry it hurt you to see me kissing someone else. I understand. We were friends. We were still keeping in contact. There was apparently a little sexting going on. And he might be wrong as far as if he was starting a relationship with another woman, and then if he was being friendly with this Sarah Brady, maybe he crossed a line at some point. I'm not saying he didn't do that. He's a human. He can very easily be wrong too. And she has every right to be upset about that. Hey, I found out about your new girlfriend this day. You were sexting me this day. That's not cool. Now, her going, you need to be honest with her about the days and times you were texting and sexting with me. No, that's not her call to make. She's trying to throw a piece of dynamite in his life in the name of nobility. And really, she's trying to start shit for him and be like, well, if you were being honest, you would tell her this. And he's like, well, you don't know our days and times. It's not your business. And I don't need to tell you shit about what I tell her. And that's one thing that people do like to do when we get into exes and stuff like that. Well, you better start telling this person this, and you better start doing this and that. Hey, man, we are not in a relationship anymore. You know the greatest thing about ex? I don't have to listen to a fucking word you say. I don't have to take your advice. I don't have to care at all about your opinion. And I really don't have to stand here and fucking listen to your bullshit. Whether it's on my phone, in my face, through my friends, I don't have to listen to this shit. Why? Don't have to deal with your ass anymore. And it's only through, you see, especially in this situation, ego, pettiness, the love of drama, the love of shit like that, that people hold on. Well, let me tell you something about you that you don't know. And let me tell you something that you're not going to do. And I'll tell this motherfucker everything I know about you. And it's all this stuff. I'm going to tear you down. I'm going to tear you down. I'm going to tear you down. Why do you think we didn't work out? Look at the person you are when things don't go your way. We can't have an honest communication about what my vulnerabilities are, how I feel about things, how things affect me, and how I, go through life in the healthiest way possible. If we can't talk about that openly and honestly, then what in the fuck are we doing here? You know what I mean? And again, it's not bad to have these conversations. I'm glad we're having a conversation, but we would not be having this conversation at all had she not trying to put his ass on blast by posting his stuff on Instagram. I'm sorry, if he's got a better publicist than you, that's not on anybody else. His publicist or TMZ or whoever posted that article of him and his new girlfriend, well, he did also text her and let her know, hey, I'm seeing someone else. Because she was like, hey, what are you doing from this time to this time tomorrow? He goes, I think you need to stay in school. That's important. Also, I'm seeing someone. I don't think it would be appropriate for us to hang out like that. He did everything he had to do. I mean, I really don't understand how this is a story. It must be a slow news time for people to not only has it hit the news media, but now it's gotten a resurgence under the title of therapy speak. So that's my thoughts on it. You guys let me know what you think. I will check you out in the next video. Hit like if you made it all the way through this. Subscribe if you want to see other videos like it. Hit the bell so you see it as soon as we go live. I love you.